Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Michael Hirsch welcoming you to another session of Stay Connected with Your Health for the Worcester Senior Center. This is our January 2024 edition, so it's the new year. But actually, as we're sitting here, we're recording this late in December, and some of what I'm going to tell you or talk to you about is definitely about next month. But we're also going to take a look backwards at the year that just transpired and talk a little bit about an event that happened in December, which you all know about, which is called the Goods for Guns gun buyback program that I've had the privilege of maintaining and running since 2002 here in the city of Worcester. So this was our 22nd iteration of this gun buyback program. And I think those of you who have watched this program before, and those of you who know anything about my bio, I started these programs, first one in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and one now in Worcester, in honor of my fallen comrade, John Wood, who was a resident with me at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, but was tragically murdered in front of the hospital in 1981. And I just felt like we had to do something about gun violence that was very practical. It didn't have a lot of evidence to support that it was going to be a crime buster. But everywhere that I've started these up, and I've started them up in Hartford, Connecticut, I've started them up in Boston and Springfield, Mass. I've started them up in parts of Pennsylvania as well, other than Pittsburgh. It always brings the community together to see the blue coats of the police departments and the white coats of the doctors collaborating, and in our case with the help of our district attorney, Joe Early, to try to get guns off the street, but more importantly, to raise awareness about the responsibility that goes with your Second Amendment privilege to own a weapon. And we're going to show you some film of this year's buyback because I think it was pretty dramatic. We had 80 weapons retrieved this year. We were retrieving them in 6 sites, 2 in Worcester, and then we had 4 peripheral sites around Worcester County. And what was impressive this year is that we collected 80 weapons, but 31 of them were semi-automatic weapons, either long or short, which are really the weapons that are the most destructive. And additionally, 6 of those semi-automatic weapons were assault rifles. And these are very, very heavy-duty weapons of mass destruction. The one that was retrieved in our Retrieval City partner in Charlton was the exact model that was used in the Sandy Hook massacre. It was a Remington Bushmaster 223, and I think all of us kind of paused when it came in, and then when we were crushing it at how important we felt it was to get that weapon off the street. And I know there's going to be people listening to this who are hunters, who feel that any restriction on what a gun owner wants for their weapon that is a violation of their Second Amendment. We didn't particularly go out and say, please bring in assault weapons. But the idea that for $150 worth of gift certificates, someone felt that it was better for them to bring it in to a gun buyback program than to go to a gun store and sell it for probably $1,500 and up. So, we really were very surprised to have gotten that number of assault rifles. And they shoot 60 rounds per minute, 1 round per second. The argument that this is a great gun to go out deer hunting with is kind of shaky to me. On the street, people use these kind of rapid-fire semi-automatics, whether it's a pistol, a Glock with 17 bullets in the chamber, or you can get an extended, it's not legal, but you can get an extended magazine that will shoot even 30 of those bullets. They essentially would make hamburger meat out of any animal you were hunting. It doesn't seem like a sporting thing to go and nail a deer with 60 bullets in a minute. Like, really? So I'm just very, very happy, and all of us were, that the quality of weapon we got was very, very high this year. And we're going to keep working to try to expand our network of communities. We have 25 that are collaborating with us on this program. And I think next year we are really hoping we can get the support of the Massachusetts Medical Society and the Attorney General of Massachusetts to try to spread this statewide. So stay tuned on that. I think you'll see when we show you the footage that we took on that day that all the partners, we have a blacksmith who helps fabricate the crushed up parts of the gun into garden tools, which we then donate to community gardens, and the produce that they produce will then go to the Worcester County Food Bank. And we have our wonderful supporter from the Worcester Police Department, Deputy Chief McGinn, who's been one of the backbones of the program, and some of the folks that do the actual crushing at the City Welding and Foundry over on 10 Ararat Street. They've been great partners, and as a typical, everybody has been touched by some episode of firearm injury. Chief McGinn had a family member who was shot in the line of duty. The owner of the foundry, Paul Kirchie, lost a son-in-law to gun violence. You know my story. All of us have been touched by gun violence. And fewer people in the United States can say that they have had no connection to gun violence, because when the numbers on gun fatalities are going up, last year, 49,000 gun fatalities in the United States, more than the number of motor vehicle crashes. That made firearm fatality the number one cause of death for children under the age of 19. That's incredible. This is not what you expect in a first world sophisticated country. We're not like some of the very troubled areas of the world like Bosnia, Somalia, the Middle East, where everybody is, poised with a gun. We have no reason to have this level of gun violence, but the gun buyback gives people the anonymity, the amnesty, the agency to bring these weapons in, no questions asked, and we got some good ones this year. So we'll take a little break here and show you this footage that we got from the gun buyback day, which was on December 9th. And then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about 2024 moving forward and 2023 looking backward.
Well, we're returning again this year for the Goods for Guns buyback program. Completely anonymous. People have amnesty to return guns that they may have in their household or maybe in possession of. And it's an opportunity to get rid of these guns very quickly, anonymously, and in exchange the people receive a gift certificate for a local grocery store. So that provides a little incentive to get these guns out of people's households. Again, it's all voluntary. And people have guns from family members from years past, from a variety of different methods by which they come into these guns, and they may or may not be licensed. and it's a good opportunity to get these guns out of the house so it doesn't become the subject of theft. A kid doesn't get this gun, a distraught family member doesn't get their hands on the gun, and or it's used in some type of crime somewhere along the line. So it's a good opportunity to get rid of these guns that people would ordinarily not want in their home. All different kinds of guns. We have long guns, shotguns, rifles, as well as a number of handguns. And in speaking with a few of the people who have dropped off guns, he goes, it's been a family member for years and years, so long since passed, and they just don't want it in their home any longer. And these folks aren't licensed in many cases, so they just really want it out of their household. It's a good opportunity for them to do it and make a couple of bucks with a gift certificate for something they can use.
It's a community service. We're destroying the firearms that typically the Worcester Police and local police departments bring in. And we crush them. There's a lot of, some people bring BB guns in. One guy brought in a nail gun, but we destroyed it for him. I don't think he got a reward for it, but they get gift certificates to a local grocery store, typically depending on the caliber and automatic. Yeah. Most of the guns are old and they probably don't operate in the first place. So, like I said, it's a community service that we provide. We've been doing it for 3-4 years now with Dr. Hirsch. And they make garden tools, as you can see over here. They have a blacksmith that comes in and does the work, and they make gardening tools. So it's pretty unique. You know, my personal feeling is if they're personal gun owners and they have the right to bear arms, they also have the right to do as they please. So that's my feeling. We're a long line of a hunting family. We support the Second Amendment, but unfortunately, some of these guns are used in illicit ways, and the police get their hands on them, and they need to get rid of them. They can't go back out into the public.
I got involved because I'm nephew of the owner that does the crushing, and I think it's a pretty good turnout. 3-4 years that we've been crushing them, and hopefully it'll continue.
So today's event is sponsored by UMass Memorial and the Worcester Police Department. Is a buyback for people that want to get weapons out of their house that they don't want anymore, and they want to transform them into something better. And that's where blacksmiths come in from Guns to Gardens, is after the weapon has been safely disabled by police firearms experts and decommissioned by the metal workers here at this facility, then we take the safe scrap material and distribute it to New England area blacksmiths who can then create useful and beautiful tools. So these are examples that have been made by blacksmiths from firearm parts, including the handles, that can then be given to community gardeners in the greater Boston and Worcester area. And so this is something that we hope that potential donors think about when if they have a firearm in their home, they're not sure what they want to do with it, is to recognize that it can be transformed into something useful that can go and feed the community. There's a community garden here in Worcester at the UMass Memorial Medical School that goes to a community pantry. And these tools have been used in planting and harvest at that as an example. These items can also be made into sculptures. And so a few years ago, students from Aspet Valley were brought on site with their instructor. And here on that day, they made sculptures from donated firearm scrap. And this is an example of one that you can see, which we call the Peace Wreath. This was entirely conceived of and executed by a couple of students and symbolizes their spirit in Generation Z, is transformation of our culture to something that is more peaceful and wholesome.
I hope you enjoyed that footage. I think that machine that Paul Kirchie uses to crush the guns is so dynamic and powerful, and it's a really great feeling to know that these guns will never do harm again. That brought up our total for the last 22 years to almost 4,200 guns, and that's a lot of guns. If even 7 of them had caused an injury, we have spent less money on the gun buyback than on the cost it would have done to take care of those 7 patients. So it's a money saver on top of everything else. So I want to transition a little bit to talk about January, because that's the month facing us. And there's a lot of people that feel January, after the joyous holidays of December, are kind of a letdown. And from a mental health standpoint, there are people that do get a little bit blue in this very deep part of winter. January is the first real total month of winter. I look at it a little differently, and I think you have to sometimes go back to ancient history to get a good perspective on this. The word January comes from the Roman god Janus, Janus. And you probably have seen pictures of him in some books or magazines or even on coins. He has 2 faces, one looking this way and one looking that way. And that's kind of how you have to look, I think, at every January that comes around. You have to look backwards at what you did in the previous year, what you accomplished, what you failed to accomplish. And, some people say, okay, then you make a bunch of resolutions and you see if you can accomplish them moving forward until next January. I think these resolution things, they're well-meaning, but they do put a lot of pressure on you, and then there's a lot of guilt when you kind of don't achieve these things. And sometimes you're not going to achieve them when you pledge them, and that makes it even worse. And you have like 11 months of feeling of regret, shame. Don't burden yourself with so much with resolutions. I think people just have to know that they're being a good person, that they're attentive to their spouses or partners or family, that they are doing their best if they're employed at work, that they're trying to make a difference perhaps outside of work. These are all things that you can check off and say, I didn't leave anything on the table for 2023. And I think in general, we have a lot to be thankful for about 2023. Entering 2023, the pandemic was still bubbling a little bit. We had that tridemic in December with RSV and, of course, SARS, and then the flu, all kind of hitting at the same time. But when that dissipated in end of January of 2023, we really sailed for a while, and we got to the 3-year anniversary of the COVID outbreak, and it seemed like, things were going away. So COVID is never going to go away completely. It's part of the landscape now for viruses that are going to affect us. And I had several colds during December where I tested because I didn't know if I had COVID. I tested negative. But there are a lot of people out there that are still turning COVID positive. Not to the degree where it's filling up the hospital beds, not to the degree where it's really knocking people for a loop like it used to, because I think we all have acquired a lot of immunity over the last year. It's a little bit disappointing that the last vaccine for COVID has not really spurned a lot of interest amongst the public. about 26% of the public has gotten that vaccine. I would still advise getting it. I think it's a good idea to make sure that you've done everything you can to lessen the intensity of COVID if you do get infected. And this is, I think, how it's going to be. It's going to be that COVID will kind of take a break probably in the spring and then start creeping up again in the fall, late fall, and early part of winter. And each year, probably, we will come up with a new vaccine, which I would, again, advise you to take advantage of. Flu is going to be there, and taking the flu shot, I think, is a really good plan. And the RSV vaccination is something that's now available, and particularly if you have lung problems as a baseline yourself, or if you're around really little kids, like if your grandbaby is, less than 5 months old, that's a very critical time for them not to get RSV. So you can help to reduce that exposure by getting the RSV vaccination yourself. So it's pretty much standard what we've been talking about for the last several months. And I think needles in arms, the vaccinations in arms, is still a very big priority at the Department of Public Health. But at the Department of Public Health this year, you're going to be hearing about the new Community Health Improvement Plan, the CHIP. And this will involve analysis of the data that was collected last year that went into the Community Health Assessment, the CHA. So the CHA gets crunched out and evaluated by a number of task force committees, and then we come up with a CHIP, which is kind of our roadmap to how we want to proceed moving forward in public health. And very, very interestingly, the Worcester Board of Health, which the department supplies medical expertise to, has decided for 2024 to make the medical impacts of climate change a priority for them. And if any of you are followers of city government meetings, we have a Board of Health meeting coming up on February 5th at 6:30, and it's available through our government YouTube channel, and it will feature a dear friend of mine, Dr. Judy Schechter, who is a climate specialist who studies the impact of climate on health. Climate change has been shown to cause increased numbers of strokes, of heart attacks, of respiratory ailments, including asthma. We're also seeing the effects of the longer and milder winters and early spring, so that the mosquito larvae don't die out, and when they do wake up in April, the volume of mosquitoes goes way, way up, and these mosquitoes are carrying things that are very harmful to us. Similar story with the ticks. They used to kind of go into hibernation as soon as there was a hard frost, but now we're finding that the number of ticks on the deer that carry them, and other animals carry them too, has really multiplied. And there's a number of tick-bearing, tick-related diseases that they carry that can be very debilitating. And this is all related to the climate change. So we're looking forward to hearing from Dr. Schechter as to not only these different impacts that climate change has, but perhaps some early suggestions of how we as a city, second largest in New England, can approach climate change related health challenges. And about the islands off the coast of Maine and the shoreline of Cape Cod and shoreline of Massachusetts. The water level is continuing to rise, and that's going to cause a lot more problems with flooding, and even whole sections of land turning into sea. So we have to wake up. It's been too long that we've been asleep, and I think we're going to make some impactful changes moving forward here in Worcester. And it's a credit to our city manager and our mayor, Eric Batista, and Joe Petty, that they're not afraid to get the answers on this. They've already established within the city government an Office of Sustainability. And I had a meeting with the director there, Mr. Odell, this past month, and I was very impressed at how diligently they're working on this. And I think they're miles ahead of where I thought they were going to be. There are plans to plant many, many more trees because the trees flush out a lot of the harmful aerosols in the air, and they provide more shade. We have now, through our Academic Health Collaborative, students that are working on mapping out what are called heat zones in the city. There are definitely neighborhoods that have less shade, less park space, and a higher population density that experience hotter temperatures than other parts of the city. And that's how we're going to figure out what to target. So that's, I think, what you're going to hear a lot about. It's all going to be wrapped up in the CHIP, that this is going to be a major plank to affect a change in. Of course, we're going to continue to attack the health disparities that were brought to bear during the pandemic, where we saw clearly that the communities of color in our city had higher incidences of COVID. They had less opportunities to shelter, both from an economic standpoint because they couldn't afford not to work, and also that they just didn't have the capacity of quarantining within their homes. And we're going to be very relentless in trying to pursue some equity there. So I guess if I were Janice, I would say we had a pretty good year in 2023. 2024 is going to lay out a lot of challenging obstacles to better public health, but knowledge is power. And once we've identified our targets, Worcester has a track record of making those targets disappear. And I think that's going to happen. We're also in the process of renegotiating our accreditation that we got in 2016. We were the first public health department in New England to get this accreditation. It's a Washington-based think tank that comes, and after reading a 170-page application, they go ahead and inspect you. And they were here for 3 days in 2015 and gave us the stamp of approval. So we were very proud of the fact that we had beaten out much bigger departments, including the Boston Health Commission and the one in Hartford, because these are the forward-thinking areas that had them very impressed. They were impressed with the fact that we were regionalized, that we're not just taking care of the health of Worcester, but we have surrounding townships that we take care of. They were impressed that we had an academic health collaborative with the 11 institutions of higher learning in Worcester. They were impressed that we had a really strong relationship with our police department, our public works department, our inspectional services department, and we had gotten so much positivity about the CHIP that all of the philanthropic agencies in Worcester aligned their giving to projects that they knew would advance the CHIP. So they saw the Department of Public Health as a leader and someone that was setting the tone for the entire region as far as advancing good public health practices. I think they're going to find that again, and that will be a happy day, obviously. So my Janice looking forward is that we're going to have a good year, and yes, there will be some bumps in the road. The international scene and an election year is going to bring out a lot of hateful rhetoric, a lot of noise that you sometimes can't tune out when you turn on the TV. I'm not trying to minimize that. It's a very anxiety-provoking thing. I feel it every day. But I think that the good things that we're going to be doing in Worcester will make you feel good about 2024. So I'm going to quit there and just say I thank you for attending these sessions and for listening. And if you ever have any suggestions about topics you want to dive into, please send them to the health site in the www.worcesterma.gov. We have a health email that you can pop a message into. And if you want to get involved in helping us with the chip creation, that's another way. You'll see sites there that will be having open focus groups, hearings, Zoom meetings about the various topics that we need to address as we create this new roadmap for Worcester. So thanks again, and Happy New Year.